So today I'm going to tell you why I don't think GPU prices are ever going to go down, at least in the foreseeable future. You're going to see that there's a lot of logic behind this. If you watch until the end of the video, we're going to look at Nvidia not as a greedy corporation, but as a very ambitious corporation that frankly has forgotten PC gamers. I mean, recently Jensen did an interview, and when asked, what is Nvidia? What do they do?
Can you give me a very basic definition of what Nvidia is?
Wow, that's an easy question. Well, we are a technology company that processes software for applications and domains of science that are barely possible without us.
Let's say if I ask you that question, you're going to think, oh, fondly in your heart, Nvidia is the company that gives me graphics cards, right? They're the company that gave us the 1080 Ti, the 980, the 4090. They're a graphics card company. That's what we think of them as. That's going to be maybe a very small view of what they actually are. And believe it or not, it's not what they think that they are. As you can see, he never says they're a GPU gamer company. Remember, gaming and graphics cards were at the core of what made Nvidia great. What they are now is a technology company, and they facilitate different things to do with software. This is going to be all related to artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, even DLSS, the deep learning super sampling, uses machine learning. So that's what they're putting their chips on. Nvidia used to be focused primarily on graphics cards and that sort of market. But if you think about it this way, do you think Nvidia cares if people aren't buying a GPU because it's $100 too expensive? Not really. They're not a small mom and pop that are making thin margins like maybe somebody selling their GPU might be, making smaller margins, and they have to make money on each GPU. They're not like a dollar pizza place in New York City that has to sell 1 million pizzas in order to be profitable. What they are, however, is a massive company that lives or dies by basically its share price and the perceived value. So if they can put out a GPU, no matter the price, like let's say the 4080, way too expensive for a gamer, right? But to an investor and to the overall public, they can sell it as another great generation GPU with a whole lot of power, actually probably cheaper than last generation's 3090 and still performing better. They can throw a bunch of different directions at it that we may not view it as being logical, but to most people, they're going to be like, what's the big deal here? Computer stuff is expensive, right? And then all they have to do is have something successful, like in ChatGPT. Microsoft bought like a whole bunch of GPUs that are like $10,000 each. Those are the machine learning GPUs, like the A100. I think they bought like 100,000 of them. Nvidia, even with that, they're not nearly as concerned with the amount that they sold them for. I'm sure it was definitely discounted. They're more concerned with the general public knowing that Microsoft bought them. They bought Nvidia GPUs for ChatGPT, for artificial intelligence. They want to feel pride that they're working on something that seems beneficial. So that leaves us the question, is gaming not respected anymore by Nvidia? All of Jensen's responses were Nvidia is important in biology. They're going to use machine learning and all of the language learning that powers ChatGPT to learn the same thing about biology, learn all those rules. They're going to learn about various scientific things and things that actually affect the world, according to Jensen. And this kind of separates it from gaming as entertainment, as gaming as technology, with everything else that actually, at least in Nvidia's eyes, seems to matter. Maybe they feel like in order to be taken seriously in the real world that's outside of gaming, they need to push their applications for scientific purposes and quote unquote work purposes. And gaming is rarely mentioned in a lot of different things they do. Even with a brand new GPU release, look at the 4070 Ti, which I've complained about because the actual hardware is really severely limited. VRAM is only 12 gigabytes of VRAM for an $800 GPU. That's one strike against it. The memory bus is only 192 bits, which is really, really bottlenecked for high textures, ray tracing. That's another big strike about it. They should have given it a different RAM amount if that means having to change the memory bit bus. And the biggest strike against against it is that $799 price. Gamers just aren't happy. So what did Nvidia do? When they show their graphs, they're not showing the real raw performance of the 4070 Ti, which in many cases, especially VRAM limited scenarios, the RTX 3090 Ti is a much superior GPU if we're talking about brute force. But what does Nvidia do? They put the software entire way through, and it was fantastic. So I'm not dishing on the technology, but Nvidia using it to sell GPUs, then they can say the 4070 Ti is 3 times faster than the 3090 Ti. Of course, technically we know that it's not, and in fact it might even be slower if the VRAM becomes an issue. But if you turn on DLSS 3 with frame generation, the FPS are a lot higher. That's very true. So Nvidia is pushing the software side not only to pump up the FPS on the graphics card, but to market it as far superior than last generation, where if you really look at the brute force hardware, it's not 3 times better by any stretch of the imagination than the 3090 Ti. It's certainly more efficient, it's certainly cheaper, but it's not 3 times faster with brute force, only when you have DLSS 3. Not every game is going to take advantage of that, and the ones that do, not everyone is really perfectly optimized. There are still some issues there to be seen. So Nvidia pushing software heavily even in gaming GPUs. This is the first generation that DLSS has become a major selling point. Even the laptops, RTX 4000, they start with like DLSS is a huge improvement. They're going to start using that software to push people to upgrade. All of a sudden, if your 3090 Ti can only do the old DLSS and the new games coming out are all taking advantage of frame generation and you're getting severely less frames, even if they're quote unquote fake frames, you're going to start to be a little bit upset if your 3090 Ti is getting like 20 frames per second in the game where everybody else is getting 100 plus on GPUs that are considerably cheaper than you paid because of this type of technology. That's one way Nvidia is going to push a lot of people to upgrade when normally a GPU should last a few years. Look at the 1080 Ti. That was a brute force GPU at $699. That was an incredible value. You could say ever since it came out, even recently, people still consider it a decent value. People were still buying it for gaming PCs. Do you think in 5 years people are going to be buying a 4070 Ti? I don't think so. It's going to be completely obsolete by then because even 1440p is going to absolutely destroy the amount of VRAM and the speed that it has with path tracing and all the new technologies that Nvidia is also pushing. So as we can see with the introduction of maybe the 20 series to the 30 series to the 40 series, Nvidia is slowly going from a more hardware focused manufacturer to one that's highly on software. Maybe we should be lucky that they're still paying any attention to gamers at all. If like ChatGPT and similar AI technologies take off even further, why would they even bother with the low margin complaining gamers like we are when they can just sell boatloads of GPUs to, workstations and different applications like that where people need the power, much like crypto miners. Crypto miners weren't complaining Nvidia was ripping them off. They were buying everything that they could during the crypto mining boom during the last few years. And the same thing may happen with AI going forward, leaving gamers once again kind of just being left with high prices and whatever GPUs and technology Nvidia wishes to give us, which is not the position that Nvidia started with, being primarily a gaming focused company. So because of all this, that's why Nvidia can afford to keep GPU prices for gamers high. They're going all over the place with AI GPUs. Their market value continues to grow up. If you ever watch the financial channels, all of their positive talk with everybody is going on right now. Everybody's like, Nvidia is the next thing. Not because of the 4090 or because of DLSS 3, it's because of AI. A little bit DLSS 3 if you consider that machine learning. It's everything to do with the big push that's going forward. It may fizzle out kind of like the cryptocurrency mining did and just kind of reach a stagnated point. But for now, Nvidia certainly is focusing on that, giving them no incentive to have to lower consumer GPU prices. You either pay what they want or they just won't make as many and make all their money with their stock value and selling artificial intelligence GPU. They have a huge plan B. Plan A is no longer just for gaming. It's being replaced, and that's going to mean high GPU prices for us in the future, and maybe even worse GPUs with small incremental upgrades because they don't have to focus nearly as much on this market. And we know the story with AMD and Intel. Even though we like to say they're going to be competition, they always fall a little bit short, a little bit too late than Nvidia, unless Nvidia really gives up on the gaming market, and then maybe they have a little bit of a chance to gain some ground. So guys, let me know what you think down below. I'm curious if you also feel Nvidia is sort of like abandoning PC gaming for greener pastures. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.